Walkmen Lisbon.
Hello, my needle drops. Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. I stubbed my toe, it hurts. Before we get into this review, I want to mention that on theneedledrop.com there is a new B-side to a single coming out later this year from the band Crystal Stilts. It's a great song. These guys came out with a great single last year, and in 2008, I believe it was, they released an amazing LP. For anybody who's into lo-fi, fuzzy garage rock, A Light of Night. Great album. Check it out. Link is in the D-Box, along with a link to a new R. Stevie Moore tribute album put out by the blog Sick of the Radio. Give that a listen too. One of the members of MGMT actually covers an R. Stevie Moore song too. Alright, let's get into this. The Walkmen are a New York band whose music to me just has an old soul. Almost as if maybe I could hear their music playing on a scratchy old 78. Lisbon is their 6th studio LP, so it's pretty easy to say that these guys are seasoned, but they haven't garnered the same attention as their other New York contemporaries like Vampire Weekend or The National. And I don't know why. They have very passionate songs, a very distinct sound based on weary, crooning vocals and shimmering guitars. This thing also got pitchforked with an 8.6, and I believe Sputnik Music gave it an 8 stars out of 10 as well. But for me, this is an upset. When these guys put out Bows and Arrows, I thought they hit a grand slam. You know, just rounding the bases. First base, second base, third base. But somebody managed to get a hold of the ball before they got to home plate and threw it to the catcher. And for a moment, I thought I was going insane. I actually had to go back and listen to the Walkmen's 2 previous albums just to make sure there wasn't some kind of mental disease in my brain forcing me to hate this band. Outside of some string arrangements and one track that really relies on a huge horn section, there's not much different here, sound-wise. And I really can't say the production is that awful either. More aggressive moments like Angela Surf City still go over really well, which is the most punk I've ever heard this band get. And tracks like Stranded still just sound huge with all of these horns backing them. It's a really big track, a lot like a Beirut song. Highly enjoyable too. I think most of my gripes with this LP sit with the songwriting, the musicianship. Let's start with the track Follow the Leader. Mixed very messily, the guitar isn't even on the tempo the entire time. I'm sure the direction of this track was intentional, positively sure, but it still ends up just feeling like a piece of filler. There are a couple moments like the track Blue Is Your Blood where the song is based on this sort of one guitar phrase that repeats itself for most of the track, only making the song feel really, really monotonous, even in the moments where it is changing into something else. There was another point that bugged me a lot on the track Victory, where it felt like the vocals were straining a little bit, maybe could have done with a second take, and there was something about the interplay between the musicians on this album that I really can't explain either. It felt kind of flat. I just found that a lot of tracks had drumming that was just kind of repeating the same thing over and over and over. Meanwhile, people were just kind of just doing their thing over it, as opposed to everyone reacting to one another. There were songs here that didn't really feel like they had an ending, just sort of stopped. And overall, the album doesn't really feel like it has as much subtlety as previous releases like You and Me. That album, I feel like I could just turn it over and over and over in my head like a Rubik's Cube and constantly just be looking at it from different angles and different sides and different shapes and just seeing it in a different light. Whereas this thing, the more I listened to it and the more I got to know it, the flatter it just felt. But don't get me wrong, these guys still have a lot to admire. They could still be sentimental, like on the Torch song, another favorite of mine, and they still clearly have a lot of ambition, which shows on the track Stranded that I mentioned earlier. I just like the older stuff better, and you don't even have to go as far back as the song Rats, which I know a lot of people love, and is played almost 2 times as much as any song on this album, according to Last.fm. I can't say I'm upset here over a big change in direction or just an unexpected sound, because that's just not the case. The Walkmen sound like the same band here. I think what I'm trying to say is that this time around, it just feels less awe-inspiring. For me, I'm feeling a decent to strong 5 on this album. But what am I going to do? It's not like I'm going to lie and just tell you I liked it. That's not me. I'm sure Calchuchesta likes the Walkman, though. I can't hear ya! I'm listening to one of these new iPads! I hate Calchuchesta. Anthony Fantano, the Walkmen, Lisbon, forever.